I'd like somebody to give me a 5-minute warning when my time is close to the end. Can somebody do that for me? From the back booth? Good. That's very good. I also wanted to tell you that the meditation we did is available in the back on a CD with about 5 other meditations. It came from a time in my life when things were very, very difficult. And it's amazing as you go back and you look at where you've been and where you're going, and you think, this is now, this is good, but oh, I'm having this, I'm having that, I have this other problem, blah, 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 blah. And then you look back and you see, oh, I had a bunch of problems before too, and then maybe something exquisite happened, like a meditation. I have been incredibly blessed to have met some of the finest human beings on this earth, including Norman Vincent Peale. I was looking up all this unity stuff, and I think he had a big part in that long ago. And so I've known some of the best: Zig Ziglar, Og Mandino, Clement Stone, Art Linkletter, some really incredible people. But today is about, how did it go for you over the Thanksgiving? This is a tradition thing. I had an exquisite privilege about 5 years ago to be standing at a Minnesota chapter speakers meeting when a man came up to me. I was feeling about as old as Methuselah at the time, and he came up and he said, I want to know you. And I thought, well, good. And your name is? He said, Jasin. I heard the accent. I said, well, I'm Janie Jasin. He said, I still want to know you. I said, and where is this accent from? Poland, he said. And I gave him my business card and I left. Maybe that happens to you in life. And about a week after that, he called. He said, this is Jasin. I want to know you. I said, yes, yeah, I'm busy. Because do you have this happen to you? There are people on the planet now, they are called brain pickers. They want to be something big shot dealy, whatever, and they think if they could just get with you and pick your brain and they could find out how to do what you did, and they'd just be blessed and rich and powerful and famous. So I said I was busy. He said, that's okay, I will call again. A week later he called again. This is Jasin. I still want to know you. Now I lied. I said, I'm sick. He said, well, then I will come out and help you. He arrived at the door with chocolates and flowers, and I opened the door. And I had no idea that I would learn the traditions of how they survived and how he escaped from Poland, and how the traditions of his family were similar to mine. Because what nobody knew was that day that he was pestering me, I didn't know what to say to him. Does that ever happen to you, where you meet somebody, you have no idea what to say? I met some very nice people here. There's a very nice man right there in the second row. I have no idea what to say to him. And fortunately his wife showed up, so I didn't have to invent something. I thought, why is he wearing that suit coat? The shirt looks nice. He's been in business somewhere sometime. I was making analysis. So this Jasin was talking to me, and I didn't know what to say, so I said to him, you know, I grew up in Milwaukee, and they did the polka from the left to the right, from the left to the right, but in Minnesota they dance the polka up and down, like a pogo stick. So which would be correct? And he laughed. So then here he is in my house, and I'm talking to him, and from the joke of the polka, I opened the door, and he came in, and then I learned. I learned that when I was a little girl, that everything that I had learned about World War II and Hitler and Nazis and camps and Auschwitz and horrible things, and then all of the things that happen and people out of work and no money, and here he was escaping in 1985 to get out of there, while I was rising in the speaking world. I listened and I learned, and I said, Ches, it was that silly tradition of the polka that drew us together so we could write a book and make CDs so that people could maybe record what theirs were. Yes, I know, you have a Bible, you record everything, and now the young people they just record it on the iPhone. They don't need to write anything down there. Are they going to be standing at a funeral reading from the iPhone? Or maybe there would be a biblical record someplace. So I watched all of that, and I put something in that book that moved me deeply. My father used to give away cheap pens. It was a tradition in our house. And he would give away a cheap pen, and I'd be out with my mother, and we'd be out to have dinner, and I would look over at him, and he would be meeting a stranger, and he'd say, "Here, have a pen." Well, the person would take it. And then my dad would push it. He'd say, "Read it." Oh, dear. So now the person was reading. "Hello, my name is Henry. Let's be friends." Oh, tacky. He was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. He was always meeting people. And my mother said, "What's he doing?" I said, "He's giving away a cheap pen." And then the person would read it and he would push it. He'd say, "Read it out loud." Oh, dear, now the person's in a restaurant. "Hello, my name is Henry. Let's be friends." Would he leave it? No. He'd reach out his hand. He'd say, "Would you be my friend?" The person had no choice. They could say, "I don't know you. This is a cheap pen. Let's skip it." But, I watched it for years. And they usually said, "Sure, you can never have too many friends." I watched it, and then I cleaned out 2 houses after they died. And there were a lot of those cheap pens. And I began to tell the pen story, and then I showed up at the Wisconsin Association Healthcare Services for the Aging, now called Leading Age, and a woman came up, she said, "Thank you for telling the pen story. I was the nurse when your father was dying, and a week before he died, I went into his room. Even with Alzheimer's, he reached in his pocket and tried to give me a cheap pen." She said he was making friends until the week before he died. So I had some pens made. They say, "I'm Henry's daughter, Janie, Jasin, let's be friends." Tacky. My son in Silicon Valley has some pens. And they say, "I'm Joseph Henry Jasin, Henry's grandson, let's be friends." So what do you carry on? What happened to you over the Thanksgiving bash? You sat around with people, all of these people with odd habits. Didn't they come? They sat at your table, or you went to their place, and did odd things happen? I remember going to some people's house one time, and they said hello, and then we went to the basement. They didn't allow anybody up in the good floor, I guess. Just come in down to the basement. I thought, well, don't they use the living room? I don't understand. But no, we had to go down. So what happened? Who were these odd people that you sat at the table with? And you thought, I don't know, I thought this was really going to be warm and loving and wonderful, but they were odd people there. And you thought, "Gal, I'm related to them." They ate funny, they smacked their mouth, they ran from the table. This morning we had 2 little boys, one was going to undress. Is that your child? Yeah. I thought I would too, some of my stuff is kind of tight, so we look around and we see that we're so flawed, and I'm so flawed. Are you? I can't believe how flawed I am. And I'm thinking back of, okay, so I came to Minnesota. I had moved 17 times with my husband. I moved 17 times happily with no resentments whatsoever. We came to Minnesota and we got it all. We had a house on the lake and 5 boats and 2 snowmobiles and cross-country skis for everyone. Buck Hill, you're going to Buck Hill. I hear Buck Hill, all I can think of is there was a skiing pro there that used to help me ski, and he'd say, "Yes, now you will do it that way always." Well, he was from Austria, and I would, "But I will do it that way always, I will do it that way. Now, And then when he wasn't looking, ah! So we had it all with that house on the lake, and then I went to treatment. I came out of treatment for alcoholism, and I was on my knees. I had worked for General Mills, I had worked for the Dale Carnegie courses, and there I was coming out of treatment. And I said to God, my higher power, whatever you call him, please help me. I have no idea what to do with my talent. If I'm supposed to do something, give me a sign. And the phone rang about 2 months later. The guy says, this is Ed over at the tech colleges. Do you think you could come and do a speech for about 100 of our tech instructors from all over the state? I said, no, I don't think I could. I'm no longer with General Mills, and I'm not with Carnegie, and I've been in treatment, and I'm not connected with anybody. And this man said, Janie, you're finally with yourself. That's the message for today. Are you with yourself? And it was through all of that that the career rose. Oh, so many places. She was telling you, I think about the Medtronic, Earl Bach, and I think about the 3Ms. I think about doing a speech for 3M with Post-it notes on my chest. So much fun, so much creativity. And then, just at the peak of it, both parents became mindless. And I was not power of attorney. And I was not a trustee. And they lived in Milwaukee, where the businesses were. And they had a summer cottage on a lake in Watoma, Wisconsin, Christmas tree capital of the world. I didn't know what to do. Older women that I knew in my family helped me. My father's sister with a deformed arthritic finger I picked her up in Oshkosh, and she went out to the lake cottage with me, and she said, fix this up, your father would want you to. She was 99. Would I trust her to tell me the truth? I think so. Older people sometimes tell you the truth because you're lost. You're just kind of going around. And so I began to try to figure out how to manage these parents' estate. Not a trustee, not an attorney, and an only child. Did they not trust me? I don't know if they did or not. They thought I was a baby. I was 48. What would I know? Duh. They probably saw me like that kid of yours, and she'll throw everything away. So I didn't know what to do, and I got walking in the Christmas tree fields, lost and alone, and I went into this tree farm at the cottage area at the lake. And as I walked in the trees, they were big. They were like strong angel trees all around me. They were strong, and the sun was warm, and the sky was blue, and the aroma was exquisite. And I just felt, as I cried in those trees, I don't know what to do with these parents. I don't know what to do with this stuff. And why? And the breeze and the trees, they calmed me. And as I left the tree growing field, I turned around, and there was a tree on the side, like a foot tall, beat up, looked like a storm god at some horrible thing, and I took a picture of it. I came back to Minneapolis where my office was, and I thought, I have to write to my clients. I love them. They hired me. I have to do something. I have to do marketing. Give them a pen, do something. And so I wrote a letter to them. Once upon a time, in a field of young Christmas tree seedlings. Mailed it off on one sheet, forgot about it, waited 2 years, thought about the story, and wondered, gee, that was kind of a good story. Maybe I should record it on cassette. So I recorded it on a cassette. The cassettes, remember cassettes? Looked boring, so I bought 2,000 wood trees at Frank's Nursery and Crafts, drilled them and put them on the cassettes, and stood in malls and hand sold them, playing the story of the Christmas tree. I went to therapy. A woman came out of therapy. She looked in my car. She saw the cassette with the tree. She said, "What's the thing with the tchotchke on it?" I said, "That's that story I wrote." She said, "I want to hear it. I think I'd like to publish it." I said, "You're Jewish. It's a Christmas story." She said, "Janie, you remind me of a Jewish peddler." So she did. So was it a story about Santa? Was it a story about reindeer? Was it a story about Jesus and his birth or kings? No. It was a story about growing and going on. It was the Serenity Prayer disguised. Because the littlest Christmas tree looks up, and as she's growing, she says, "I love the sun. Some days I feel it's so warm." She's growing. She loves the field. She feels the breezes. And then she says, "And when the rain comes, it's delicious on my needles." And she learns later the trimmers will come. Discipline of the shearing. She says, "I won't be afraid." And she starts thinking about other things she could do in her life. Maybe I could be a shelter. And then she says, maybe I could be a window frame. Oh, sacrifice. You would have to die to be a window frame. And every place I ever read this story, I had the people hold their hands up. Would you do that? Like a window frame? Just turn to the person next to you and say, "I see such goodness." And so what happens to the tree? What happens to her? Does she get chosen? No. She learns that even if she just grows very old, strong men will look up and say, they see the goodness. So in the end, what does she say? At last, she says, "I understand. The magic was today." Standing patiently, she looks up and says, "Thank you for life. Thank you for dreams. And thank you for choosing me to grow today in this world with its many possibilities." I wrote a piece of music for the book. We sold 2 million of these everywhere. Some of the finest people cheered me on. Jack Canfield jumped up from his booth at the book expo and shouted, "Way to go, Jason!" The chicken soup man, the people that helped. And so when you are growing this season, growing in faith, growing in trust, growing in acceptance of people that no longer look like we do, people wearing different kind of outfits, having different color skin, having different languages. We are all trees growing. We are Frasers, we are Scotches, we are all kinds of trees growing in the wilderness. So I will finish by saying this one line from the song. She learned, if still not chosen, from living with the trees, life offers joy and wonderment and possibility.